It has been frustrating over the last couple weeks to watch the Trump campaign struggle once Kamala Harris replaced Joe Biden at the top of the Democratic ticket. The Trump campaign needed something to regain the momentum in the race. And thank you, Kamala Harris, for providing that something today with the selection of Minnesota Governor Tim Walz as vice president. Yes, I know you're saying Tim who? Well, you're going to get to know Tim Walz really, really well, or you better get to know him really, really well. I don't put the responsibility for that on you. I put the responsibility for that on the Trump campaign because this is such a layup. Now, I might be out of touch, but I cannot fathom that America has reached a point where if it is even remotely informed about Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, that it would pick that pair to be the president and vice president of the United States over Donald Trump and J.D. Vance. I know Donald Trump has a Trailways bus full of baggage with a lot of people on the left, and J.D. Vance is weird. By the way, that moniker came from Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, who is not weird, even though he, I'm saying, he thinks he's not weird, even though he has endorsed, let me see, anything that I would consider weird? Well, he thinks the Electoral College is outdated. He called states that ban transgender surgeries bullies. He does not believe that parents should be told that their kids want to transition from male to female or female to male. He is anti-school voucher. He is pro-DEI. And he thinks that the riots that took place in his state in Minneapolis in the aftermath of George Floyd's death, which included Tim Walz telling authorities to pull back so rioters could burn down a police station in Minneapolis, he thinks all of that was, while painful in the short term, really a good thing in the long term. Here was Tim Walz during those riots talking about the destruction that was, I guess, just one step backward and two steps forward.
A society that does not put equity and inclusion at the center of it is certainly going to eventually come to the places where we're at. This is a moment of inflection. It's a moment of real change. It's a moment that those folks who are out there demanding this are not going to take a commission or a report. They're going to want fundamental change. And that is what I think, that's one of the exciting things in the midst of all this. You can feel a sense of optimism coming back.
Yes, as those cities burn and people die like David Dorn in St. Louis. And people who would work their whole lives to establish small businesses only to see them brought to ashes on the ground. In all that, you could feel a sense of optimism. Yes, and lawlessness too, and anarchy and chaos. And that is what Tim Walz thinks is good. And that is what Kamala Harris thinks is good. And that is what people on the left think is good. They think we ought to burn America to the ground. And that every foundational value on which our country began is, well, count it up, racist, sexist, misogynistic, emblematic of colonizers. We're a bad, evil, terrible place, and we never should have been established. And so the only way to fix it is to tear it to the ground and build it back up in their socialist utopia. Oh, wait, don't say socialist around Tim Walz, because Tim Walz has a really interesting view of socialism. He was one of the white dudes for Harris on the Kamala Zoom call the other day. He was just fine with the fact that Kamala backs, before she issued a press release saying she didn't back it anymore, she backs open borders. She backs Hamas. She backs a lot of crazy radical things. And Tim Walz was on that call, and he didn't take a breath in about 4 minutes, where he endorsed every one of her positions. And a couple of the things that he said were, how great it will be when Kamala Harris, a black woman, can kick the I'll clean it up butt of Donald Trump. So he sees life through an intersectional lens. But his most interesting comment on the call was what he said about socialism, which has never worked in any other country around the world. It is not working in Venezuela right now. It does not work in Russia. It has not worked in any country before. It has not worked in China. The communism, socialism, Marxism, all are first cousins of each other. But Tim Walz says this about socialism.
Don't ever shy away from our progressive values. One person's socialism is another person's neighborliness. Just do the damn work.
Just do the damn work. Just build cities and burn them to the ground, build them under capitalism, burn them to the ground under communism, socialism, Marxism, because one person's socialism is another person's neighborliness. I suppose. Did I say thank you to Kamala Harris yet? Did I say thank you to Nancy Pelosi and Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren and AOC and all the people on the Democratic side of the aisle who were super happy about Tim Walz's selection as vice president on the Kamala Harris ticket? I'm very excited about it. I'm super excited about it. And I want Nancy Pelosi to pause between swigs from her vodka bottle to continue to say things like this over the next 90 plus days as we approach the election in November.
Tim Walz, I know very well. He served in the House. To characterize him as left is so unreal.
Boy, that was a long pause.
He's right down the middle.
Oh,
a Heartland of America Democrat. And he was the chair of our Veterans Affairs Committee. And I don't want anybody to forget that.
He's right down the middle, Tim Walz. He wants to trans the kids. He wants to defund the police. He's right down the middle, Tim. Just a regular, normal Democrat. Yeah, well, now he is, because the Democratic Party has clearly been captured by its leftist wing. What happened to Josh Shapiro? I mean, the announcement tonight, the official announcement tonight, is in Philadelphia. Everybody thought that meant the Pennsylvania governor, Josh Shapiro, who got elected with 65% of the vote, who's kind of a white Obama. When you hear Josh Shapiro talk, he clearly is channeling his inner Obama, trying to sound like Mr. Hope and Change, reincarnated with 2 terms as president of the United States on the runway ahead of him. Josh Shapiro was not rejected because he's too ambitious. Josh Shapiro was not rejected because he would provide too much of a rival to Kamala Harris and too much of a perhaps picture of competence in the shadow of her utter incompetence. There is one reason and one reason only why Josh Shapiro was not chosen. Here's Josh Krashour, formerly of Axios. You see him on Fox News all the time, explaining why Josh Shapiro, governor of a swing state the Democrats have to win the election, was not picked, and Tim Walz, governor of a state the Democrats have not lost since Richard Nixon ran for re-election in 1972, was chosen.
There may have been some hesitance about making too much of a history-making ticket by picking Governor Shapiro. That could have been a good decision or a factor in their decision. I don't know. I think the bigger factor is that the anti-Israel forces are alive and well and very outspoken within the Democratic Party. And they were, even before Kamala Harris was on the ticket, the Biden campaign was worried about disruptions in Chicago. There's an anti-Israel march that's going to be taking place during the convention that's going to get a lot of attention. So I think the division between the squad and the anti-Israel folks in the party, and by the way, the delegates are a notch to the left to the average Democratic voter. So the prospect of Josh Shapiro getting booed, of left-wing activists heckling the running mate, that would have been really ugly. And there was a real risk that could have happened. So I think you can't discount the discrimination and the anti-Semitism factor.
Let's be clear on this. Kamala Harris did not cave to the anti-Semitic wing of the Democratic Party. Kamala Harris leads the anti-Semitic wing of the Democratic Party. The other squad members and Bernie Sanders and Tim Walz's are just following in the footsteps she wants to chart. This is her first big decision. She hasn't had to answer a single question in 17 days as the Democratic nominee. By the way, she is officially the Democratic nominee now that they did their little virtual roll call last night. They are stuck with her, and they are stuck with this terribly bad decision, which she didn't make in a vacuum. She made it with Pelosi's blessing, with Obama's blessing, with Schumer's blessing. This is who the Democratic Party is. If you are Jewish, if you are a supporter of Israel, I don't know how you vote for the Harris-Walz ticket. If you want the border closed, if you don't want terrorists released into the United States, and we now have proof that they are releasing terrorists into the United States. I'll get to that later in the show. If you want domestic energy production to amp back up, don't vote for Harris-Walz.
Sunny, hot, and humid. Couple of showers, heavy thunderstorm for the afternoon. We could get some flash flooding, the high 94. Cloudy and humid, heavy thunderstorm this evening. Thunderstorm late tonight. Could be some ponding on streets and roads, low down to 66. For tomorrow, cooler but humid, clouds and sun, high 80. Clouds and humid on Thursday, high at 86. Partly sunny Friday, high again 86. I'm Steve Williams on 98.9 FM, The Answer.
Ohio native and retired pro footballer Rob Carpenter was tired of dealing with knee pain, but finally found relief without surgery at QC Kinetics.
Yeah, this was nothing really like a surgery. I mean, it was not painful, and the results were good. And, you know, I'm walking out the door and walking pain-free, so it was a good experience.
Dr. Tester and the medical professionals at QC Kinetics treat patients like Rob using regenerative medicine that helps heal and restore damaged joints with no downtime.
I wasn't really exercising much, and I gained weight because of that. So the upside of it obviously is I'm able to exercise without any pain or stiffness in the knee, and it's got my cardiovascular system back into shape, and I feel a lot better. And again, lost the weight. So what more can you ask for?
Call QC Kinetics for your complimentary consultation in Dublin or Gahanna. 380-208-4544. That's 380-208-4544. Or go to qckinetics.com/Columbus.
Let's see, if something costs less, but people are happier with it, that sounds like something to look into, and that is MediShare. And maybe you've heard switching to MediShare to pay for healthcare can save many families up to $500 a month, and that's huge, but it's also true people are way more satisfied after making the switch.
Schools to stop What could be weirder than signing a bill into law that requires schools to stock tampons in boys' bathrooms? Or weirder than signing legislation allowing minors to receive sex change operations? Try electing the man who signed those bills Vice President of the United States. Enter Chief Weirdo Tim Walz. As governor of Minnesota, Walz supported legislation that endangers minors, hurts women, and puts radical ideology ahead of common sense. Now Kamala wants Walz to enforce those laws on a national scale. Tim Walz, too weird, too radical.
Clinically proven to control odor for 72 hours on pits, feet, and beyond. It's pH optimized to safely and effectively control odor anywhere you have it, but wish you didn't. Plus, it's proven to work better than a shower alone. Whether you shower twice a day or 3 times a week, Lumi works better. And who doesn't want zero body odor? With over 200,000 5-star reviews, I'm so sure you're going to love it, or you can return it for free.
There's a special offer for listeners. Use code BETTER and get 15% off your first purchase with code BETTER, like the Lumi Starter Pack, Acidified Body Wash, or new Lumi Plus Sweat Control. That's LUME deodorant.com, code BETTER for 15% off your first purchase. Love it or return it for free. That's LUME deodorant.com, code BETTER to save 15% today.
This is a police officer's family, happily getting ready for work and school. Sadly, some police officers don't make it home because motorists don't move over for emergency vehicles on the shoulder.
I'm Ohio Fraternal Order Police President Jay McDonald. There are too many injuries and even deaths because drivers don't move over. When you see a stopped emergency vehicle, please move over.
Visit fopohio.org/moveover for more information and use hashtag MoveOver on social media to join us. This is a public service of the Ohio Fraternal Order of Police and this station.
After work today, I'm going to hit up my man Dwayne in Blacklick. I'm going to get him hooked up with luxury vinyl plank flooring. I was on 2 jobs last night. I appreciate all the confidence you guys have shown in me to trust me to give you an estimate on what it will take to outfit your home with beautiful new flooring, whether it's carpet, whether it is LVP, which stands for luxury vinyl plank, the kind that has improved so much over the years. I know that a lot of people think that the epitome of luxury is hardwood, but hardwood scratches, and hardwood is definitely not waterproof. LVP is. You cannot scratch it unless you really, really try. That's why the manufacturer sends a wire brush with it, so you can try to scratch it in the floor. You can't. It's perfect for mudrooms, for kitchens, for bathrooms, for living spaces that need some durability and long-lasting nature. You get it with that. So go to brucehooley.com, click flooring in the upper right-hand corner of the page. brucehooley.com, flooring tab, upper right-hand corner of the page. Love to meet you. Love to help you. brucehooley.com, flooring tab, upper right-hand corner of the page. I said at the outset of the show that I've been frustrated that the Trump campaign seemed to be caught flat-footed by Kamala Harris et tu bruteing Joe Biden into oblivion as the Democratic presidential candidate. But I'm heartened that the Republican National Committee was ready this morning when word leaked that Kamala Harris has named Tim Walz as her vice president. They didn't get this perfect. I'll tell you what's wrong with it after I play it for you. But here is the ad that came out shortly after the name Tim Walz was officially declared the running mate of Kamala Harris.
What could be weirder than signing a bill into law that requires schools to stock tampons in boys' bathrooms? Or weirder than signing legislation allowing minors to receive sex change operations? Try electing the man who signed those bills Vice President of the United States. Enter Chief Weirdo Tim Walz. As governor of Minnesota, Walz supported legislation that endangers minors, hurts women, and puts radical ideology ahead of common sense. Now Kamala wants Walz to enforce those laws on a national scale. Tim Walz, too weird, too radical.
All right, I don't like letting them set the language by using the term weird, a word Tim Walz first used about J.D. Vance, and then instantly, because all the Democrats have the same Slack channel where they all speak the same language right away. The walls are closing in, you know. You've seen this before, right? One Democrat says something, and then all of a sudden they all get the secret message from Command Central, and they're all using the same language. They did it to Joe Biden in the aftermath of the debate. They did it before the debate. Oh, he's sharp as a tack. Sharp as a tack, sharp as a tack, sharp as a tack. You know, they just are really good at this. So why cede the language to them? By calling Tim Walz weird, you have now initiated an argument about who is more weird. Why don't you? I don't find it weird that Tim Walz allows police stations in Minneapolis to burn to the ground. I find it stupid. I find it insane. I find it radical, evil. Use those words. They use radical, Bruce. Yeah, but they use weird more. Okay, so again, the messaging on the Republican side is not what it needs to be. As I have said and will continue to say, there is a treasure trove of information out there that should allow Republicans to hang Democrats with their own words. If you don't believe me, here's old tape of Kamala Harris talking about a term that the Republicans should bludgeon her with. And now that she's picked Tim Walz, bludgeon both of them with as this campaign unfolds.
We have to stay woke. Like, everybody needs to be woke. And you can talk about if you're the wokest or woker, but just stay more woke than less woke. Yeah.
And then you follow that up with the Biden-Harris administration has enacted an expansion of Title IX that would allow boys to play girls' sports and allow boys in girls' locker rooms, that would deny federal funding to schools that keep girls in girls' sports and boys in boys' sports. Follow it up with that. Follow it up with Tim Walz signing a bill talking about gender affirming care. Follow it up with Kamala Harris saying something else stupid. Hang them with their own words. Hang them with Tim Walz saying this about the Electoral College.
It always seems to me, going back to the Senate and the filibuster, the Electoral College seems very undemocratic to me.
The Electoral College seems very undemocratic to Tim Walz, who wants mob rule, who wants the number of votes in New York and California, two of our three most populous states, to nullify the votes of North Dakota, South Dakota, Iowa, Wyoming, and all the other small population states out there. The brilliance of our founders in giving us a Senate where every state got the same representatives and a House of Representatives where every state got differing representatives based upon population, and then enacting the Electoral College to give us a fair representation across the country of what the preponderance of Americans want, even if it's not the majority of Americans. He wants to do away with that. He wants to get rid of it. He wants to get rid of the filibuster. Here he is celebrating, signing a bill that allows Minnesota teenagers trapped in the lie of gender dysphoria to make their own decision about cutting off their genitals, to make life-altering, irrevocable decisions about their biology and their body chemistry. Tim Walz celebrates that.
We know this urgency is real, thus the need of an executive order today. Now, I want to be clear. I can't pretend to understand what goes through people's minds. I cannot imagine the stress that families and individuals go through. But here in Minnesota, we're going to be a place of refuge to make sure that they feel safe and welcome. And I don't know what a group of people in Pierre who decide to make life miserable and more dangerous for people are thinking, but it's not going to happen in Minnesota.
It's not going to happen in Minnesota. He just railed against the Electoral College not being democratic. Did he pass this law by going to the Minnesota legislature and allowing his citizens to vote on it? No, he did not. How did he do it? Here he is. He tells you again.
We know this urgency is real, thus the need of an executive order today.
Yeah, so he did it by executive order, just like they did the expansion of Title IX by an executive order or some order out of one of their woke agencies there. We got to stay woke. We got to get more woke. It's the most left-wing ticket the Democrats have ever run. And the question is going to be, is this what America wants? Is this the future of America? If it is, then we are doomed as a country. We are absolutely, positively doomed. I know it sounds like alarmist language, but it is also true. We are doomed if these idiots are given the authority to manage our country. And I just do not believe that this is mainstream in America. I do not believe that the values of Kamala Harris, which, by the way, the selection of Tim Walz makes it impossible for her to run away from her previous left-wing positions. Oh, I've issued a press release through one of my surrogates that I no longer say that fracking should be banned. I no longer think that the southern border should be understaffed as CBP. I no longer think this or that or the other, which I've said over and over again throughout my 30-year career in politics. Tim Walz's naming as vice president proves that she cannot resist her worst angels.
With SRN News, I'm Rich Thomason. Democratic presidential nominee Kamala Harris has reportedly selected Minnesota's Governor Tim Walz to be her running mate. Harris will appear with her running mate this evening in Philadelphia at a rally. The two will then go off on a tour of battleground states. Tropical storm Debbie is in no hurry to go anywhere. It's not good news for the southeast. The storm's dumping flooding rains across the region. That includes on the historic cities of Savannah, Georgia, and Charleston, South Carolina. Wildfires continuing to rage across California. In San Bernardino County, a fast-moving blaze torched one hillside community and forced evacuations. Iran continuing to threaten to strike Israel in response to the assassination of Hamas's political leader in the heart of the Iranian capital, Tehran. On Wall Street, the Dow was up 242 points, the Nasdaq 161 points higher. More details, srnnews.com.
Things have gotten so out of control, it is hard to understand.
It's been a chaotic, at times violent day in South Minneapolis, turning into a situation unlike anything we've ever seen in our community.
From Chapter 5 up above, we can see the plume of smoke drifting towards downtown Minneapolis.
Started vandalizing the building, shattering a window, spray painting squad cars.
We are asking the governor, we're asking Mayor Fry, what is the plan here?
We saw people throwing rocks at police cars, at the precinct building.
This has gotten so out of control, it is definitely not a safe situation for anyone.
The tragedy would be if one of these dumpster fires spreads to one of those big apartment buildings or some of these homes, and then you can't get a fire truck down the street.
Please, Governor Walz, Mayor Fry, explain to us what the plan is.
We've seen protesters attacking police, defacing buildings, and looting from businesses.
The place is completely trashed. A lot of stuff has been hauled out of there. Sadly, no police presence in that area whatsoever.
I'm just so baffled. If this is being in charge, this is not a good look.
There is oil, there are chemicals, there are paints, all sorts of things that are combustible and that could really cause a huge explosion.
People are scared and people are angry and people want to hear from their governor.
If the governor and the mayor are not going to take care of this problem, people will.
Christian news analyst with a 30-year track record of predicting trends. The Bible tells us that gold is a time-tested store of value that can protect your God-given assets through almost anything, including America's historic debt bubble. And here's the good news. You can own gold through your 401k or IRA. My friends at Birch Gold Group can help you buy gold for your retirement account, tax-free and penalty-free. To learn more, text the word FAITH to 989898 for an info kit from Birch Gold that's entirely free, zero cost or obligation. Text that next step right now and take it. Text FAITH to the number 989898 for your free info kit. That's FAITH to 989898.
Seth Polhaus brings hope and insight as he fights against socialism and communism on the Man in America podcast, now available on the Salem Podcast Network.
The role of the digital world in shaping our perception of the real world cannot be overlooked. It seems like all of these mechanisms are dividing us in endless ways.
Subscribe to Man in America today on Apple, Spotify, Google, YouTube, Rumble, or at SalemPodcastNetwork.com.
We are strong and we'll get through this together, but these are stressful times. Reach out to someone, connect with your friends, and know that you are not alone. Visit wearebroadcasters.com/hope, furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
Well, I hope to be able to reach a couple of you today who have expressed an interest in joining the private shopping club that is PatriotSwitch.com. I'm not asking you to buy something you're not already buying. Everybody buys personal care products for their family, for yourselves. Everybody buys vitamins and supplements, or at least most people that I know do. A lot of you want healthy, nutritional snacks, and a lot of you want to know that when you are washing your clothes or cleaning your countertops, you're not doing it with toxic chemicals. All of those products, 450 plus, are made by my friends at PatriotSwitch.com. Think of it as a big online outlet store, and think of it as your way of getting number one, healthy products, number two, great bargains, and number three, striking a blow against woke capitalism. Big companies are not going to respond to our complaints about how they do business and what causes they support until we take market share away from them. This is your chance to do that. Reach out to me and I'll explain how you can do it every single month. PatriotSwitch.com/Bruce, PatriotSwitch.com/Bruce. So I think it's a great thing that J.D. Vance is going to follow Kamala Harris and Tim Walz around the country and speak in the same states that they speak in after Harris unveils Walz as her vice presidential candidate tonight. J.D. Vance is right now speaking to Fox on an airplane festooned on where the luggage compartments are with hashtag MAGA and hashtag never surrender. The case for MAGA, for making America great again, is a lot easier case to make while video plays of what happened in Minneapolis during the George Floyd riots on the watch of Minnesota Governor Tim Walz. RNC Research released this commercial right after Harris named Walz. It is very effective. Keep playing it. Again, I've said before, all Trump needs to say is, I'm Donald Trump and I approved of this message, or something else short like, I'm Donald Trump, I'll stop this idiocy. I'm Donald Trump and I'll restore America to its greatness. I'm Donald Trump. This is awful what's been allowed to happen to our nation, and I want you to help me to keep it from happening again. Here's the spot from RNC Research, which is a very easy case to make that America needs to be made great again, because it certainly has not been great under the stewardship or lack of same from Joe Biden.
We are seeing such damage and destruction throughout Minneapolis and St. Paul. Things have gotten so out of control. It is hard to understand.
It's been a chaotic, at times violent day in South Minneapolis, turning into a situation unlike anything we've ever seen in our community.
From Chapter 5 up above, we can see the plume of smoke drifting towards downtown Minneapolis.
Started vandalizing the building, shattering a window, spray painting squad cars.
We are asking the governor, we're asking Mayor Fry, what is the plan here?
We saw people throwing rocks at police cars, at the precinct building.
This has gotten so out of control. It is definitely not a safe situation for anyone.
The tragedy would be if one of these dumpster fires spreads to one of those big apartment buildings or some of these homes, and then you can't get a fire truck down the street.
Please, Governor Walz, Mayor Fry, explain to us what the plan is.
We see protesters attacking police, defacing buildings, and looting from businesses.
The place is completely trashed. A lot of stuff has been hauled out of there. Sadly, no police presence in that area whatsoever.
I'm just so baffled. If this is being in charge, this is not a good look.
There is oil, there are chemicals, there are paints, all sorts of things that are combustible and that could really cause a huge explosion.
People are scared and people are angry and people want to hear from their governor.
If the governor and the mayor are not going to take care of this problem, people will. People will uprise over this.
This is a fail. I mean, this is an abject failure. I just don't think there's any other way to put it. You know, like I said earlier, the house is on fire. Will you please tell us if the fire department's on its way? I mean, is anything going to happen here? We're just going to let this burn.
They want it to burn. And as for the gentleman who said people are going to take this enforcement of the law into their own hands, no, you're not. No, you're not. Not under a Kamala Harris, Tim Walz administration, because they're going to do everything they possibly can to take your guns and your weapons away from you and your ability to defend yourself and your home and your property and your children and your grandchildren. They're going to do everything they can to take it away from you. They're on record saying it. During the midst of these Minneapolis riots, some of them started to dissipate when word came out that the National Guard was going to be called to the scene. And so the rioters didn't want to get arrested, and so they started to leave. Until somebody tweeted that, hey, it takes time to deploy the National Guard and these reports are inaccurate. Do you know who that person was? That person was Hope Walz, the daughter of Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, who is now the vice presidential candidate on Kamala Harris's ticket. Here's Hope Walz's tweet from May 28th, 2020. She writes, could someone who actually has followers relay, which she spelled rely, to the masses that have gotten National Guard trending that the Guard will not be present tonight? There's a lot of misinformation that is further spreading fear and chaos at the scene of the protest. So she's getting inside information from her dad, the governor, that the National Guard is not coming to the riots, and she's trying to get the word out to the rioters. Keep throwing rocks at the police cars. Keep burning down buildings and businesses. Keep rioting because the National Guard is not coming. My dad's the governor, and he says so. She continues, the Guard cannot be sent in within minutes. It takes time for them to deploy because they come from all over the state. To be clear, the National Guard will not be present tonight. Just because someone asks for something doesn't mean it's happening right away or even happening at all. I don't know about SWAT, but what I do know is the Guard will not be present arresting people tonight. Man, this is such an easy case to make. This is such a layup to convert. I certainly hope Trump is up to it. I know J.D. Vance is up to it. Brett Baer, special report anchor on Fox, explaining why the selection of Tim Walz has Republicans turning cartwheels.
I do think Republicans in some corners are rejoicing. They thought that Josh Shapiro was going to be a specific challenge for them in Pennsylvania. I do think that it is a doubling down on the progressive side of the party. I also think it shows the inherent power of Nancy Pelosi. I mean, think about all that she has influenced, perhaps, in just the last 4.5 weeks. The removal of a Democratic nominee, current president, and now, you know, in part, the selection of the vice presidential nominee. She was weighing in, and her point mattered. I think it raises some questions about the Jewish vote and how perhaps afraid the Democratic Party is of the Palestinian protester clash that we may still see some of in Chicago, but perhaps less now with Josh Shapiro not on the ticket. It's a fascinating pick that really has some people scratching their heads.
Not me. Kamala Harris is a leftist. She is going to leftist unless she is stopped from becoming a leftist. And for 2.5 weeks, she's not been made to answer a single question. And so she is she is a hot air balloon fully inflated with her own sense of self-importance. And so she is absolutely convinced she can pull this off. Her first big decision, not to go for a white moderate from a swing state, but to go for a radical governor, maybe the most radical governor in the United States, from a state that has gone blue for like a half a century. She's blown her first big decision. Now, we're so polarized that Republicans have to take advantage of it. Tim Walz's record on crime is horrible. His economic record is horrible. He had one of the worst records of COVID fraud of any state in the country. We know that he signed sanctuary city policies, so his record on the border is terrible. Maybe he did a really knock it out of the park job on COVID, Bruce. Well, here's a message that played on the, remember the COVID reporting hotlines where you could call in and rat out your neighbor if they weren't observing all the COVID guidelines? Here's the one that played in Governor Tim Walz, Minnesota.
Hello, you have reached the Department of Public Safety stay-at-home hotline. The information you leave is considered public information. At the tone, please leave the following information: your name, your callback number, how the stay-at-home order is being violated, and where the stay-at-home order was violated. Thank you.
There you go. There you go. Report your neighbors. Rat out your neighbors. They're outside without a mask on. They're taking a walk in the neighborhood. We can't have that. Tim Walz, Kamala Harris, power hungry, want to manage everything you do. How long before they institute re-education camps?
Showers, heavy thunderstorm for the afternoon. We could get some flash flooding, the high 94. Cloudy and humid, a heavy thunderstorm this evening. Thunderstorm late tonight. Could be some ponding on streets and roads, low down to 66. For tomorrow, cooler but humid, clouds and sun, high 80. Clouds and humid on Thursday, high at 86. Partly sunny Friday, high again 86. I'm Steve Williams on 98.9 FM, The Answer.
I'm CPA Brad Hennebert with Premier Tax CPAs, and the true value of using a CPA is getting guidance throughout the year, not just at tax time. During the year, we can actively advise you on your financial and tax planning and other major business decisions, just like an outside CFO. Too often, when you see your accountant only at tax time, we're really only keeping score of what you did last year. We'll prepare a comprehensive tax plan to maximize your deductions and minimize the tax you pay, and present you with money-saving options you may not have ever considered. We'll update your financial position each quarter, so there are no nasty surprises at tax time. At Premier Tax CPAs, we like to have consultations with our clients throughout the year because important financial information is only useful if it's timely. At Premier Tax CPAs, we're a firm that can work with you and your business throughout the year to help you make decisions before it's too late. Give us a call at Premier Tax CPAs at 614-524-4888. That's 614-524-4888.
Planning for retirement is no small task. If you don't know where to start, join Rodney Peters of Peters Wealth Group every Saturday at 10 and 2 for Retire Ready Ohio. Rodney shares helpful tips and strategies that just might change the course of your retirement. Listen every Saturday at 10 and 2 to Retire Ready Ohio with Rodney Peters of Peters Wealth Group. Firm offers insurance services. Investment advisory services are offered through Peters Wealth Group, a state-registered investment advisor.
Dennis Prager here. Join me on an unforgettable cruise to the Caribbean this November. We'll cruise to the vibrant islands of Half Moon Cay, Curacao, Bonaire, Turks and Caicos, and much more. We'll be joined by special guest Sean McDowell, and we'll both be sharing insights into current events in a way I hope energizes and challenges you. Secure your spot before space runs out by calling 855-565-5519 or book online at pragercruise.com.
I don't need to tell you how important a good night's sleep is for your body, your mind, your whole outlook on life. But if you're like most people, sometimes you can't fall asleep or you wake up during the night. That's why I want to tell you about Z-Factor. Z-Factor is a 100% drug-free way to help you fall asleep faster, sleep longer, and sleep better. Z-Factor is from the makers of Relief Factor, so you know they've done their homework. Z-Factor is more than just melatonin. Developed by doctors, Z-Factor uses a precise formula of 4 all-natural ingredients to calm your mind and relax your body so you ease into sleep faster, and you'll sleep through the night, restful and uninterrupted. You'll wake up refreshed, never drowsy, ready to start the day. So rediscover the joy of a really wonderful night's sleep. Give Z-Factor from Relief Factor a try and save 46% on your first order. Go to ReliefFactor.com, ReliefFactor.com, or call 800-4-RELIEF, 800-4-RELIEF, or Z-Factor.
Almost 6 million people in the U.S. are living with atrial fibrillation, or AFib, an irregular heartbeat that can put you at 5 times greater risk for a stroke, the 5th leading cause of death in the U.S. National Stroke Association and Mended Hearts have developed Beating Your Odds, an online game that makes it easy for you to learn about AFib. Earn virtual rewards as you play. Visit stroke.org/beatingyourodds to play today. Being informed saves lives.
MyPillow.com may not save your life, but it'll certainly save your sleep, because MyPillow.com does a phenomenal job of helping you sleep through the night. I slept through the night last night. As you get older, that's a little bit rare, but if you're comfortable and you don't have to flip your pillow over to find a cool side, or your neck isn't pitching to one side or the other and giving you pain in the middle of the night, then your chances of staying asleep are much better. And you can have that better chance if you go to MyPillow.com and purchase the original MyPillow in the queen size with the original fiber and fill that you can wash and dry and that'll never go flat on you for just $25. You got to use my promo code Bruce to get that pricing. If you need sheets because yours have those little uncomfortable sandpaperish linty balls on them, well, MyPillow Giza Dream bed sheets are also on sale. They come in all sizes. They'd be something good to send with your student as they head back to college. Shop today, MyPillow.com. Use my promo code Bruce. MyPillow.com, promo code Bruce. So we will get further clampdown, further radical policies, further wokeness. Kamala Harris says woke is something we should celebrate. And she celebrated her own personal brand of wokeness today by picking Minnesota Governor Tim Walz as her vice presidential candidate. I am thrilled about it. He is uber pro LGBTQ. He is horrible on crime. He is horrible on immigration and illegal aliens. He has established Minnesota as a sanctuary city. Minnesota, and particularly Minneapolis, used to be a great place to visit. I used to go there a lot when Ohio State played Minnesota when I was covering Ohio State sports. Wouldn't go near the place now. Have friends who travel there on vacation. They not on vacation, on business. They stay inside their hotel rooms and order dinner in because they do not feel safe there. I've said before that back when Biden was running, if Biden got reelected, I expect there to be a day, at least it's on the radar of possibility, that somebody with a law enforcement badge will come down the hallway and question me about something. I don't have that, degree of uncertainty if Kamala Harris or Tim Walz are elected, because here's old audio of Kamala Harris. They may not be able to convict you of anything, but that's really not the point. The point is to hassle you. The point is to inconvenience you. The point is to send you an unmistakable message. Listen to this audio from a young Kamala Harris speaking on a college campus about the power that she has and clearly relished as a prosecutor in the state of California. You want somebody with this kind of a mindset in the office of the presidency of the United States of America with the power of the FBI and the DOJ behind you?
The power I have as a prosecutor is that with a swipe of my pen, I can charge someone with a misdemeanor, the lowest level offense possible. And by virtue of that swipe of my pen, you will have to go to a courthouse and stand in line. You will have to come out of pocket and hire an attorney. You may get arrested for a few hours. You will be embarrassed in your community. You will miss time from coming onto the Google campus, all because with the swipe of my pen, I've charged you with a crime, which I may choose to dismiss 2 weeks later. It's an incredible amount of power.
Boy, that sounds pleasant, doesn't it? She can force you to get an attorney. She can force you to rot for a weekend or a couple days in jail, maybe even a week in jail. We already know that as the Attorney General of the state of California, she kept people in prison after she was ordered to let them out. Well, I don't know. I kind of miss that free labor. I don't think I'm going to comply with that judge's order, and she got upbraided for it. Tim Walz would be perfectly fine with that. Here he is articulating his progressive wish list and what he hopes happens in the fall when Donald Trump and Kamala Harris face off in the November 5th election for the presidency of the United States.
This is our moment. This is not just transformational for one election. This is transformational for several generations. But here's the thing that I take responsibility for. We're not in this alone. The rest of the world needs us to be here. These guys throwing our NATO allies under the bus, the idea that they don't care what happens in the rest of the world, not addressing climate change that's going to impact communities that are less fortunate than anyone else. Those are the things it has to do. We have communities that are going to pay the price because we don't address it. Here's the great news. How often in 100 days do you get to change the trajectory of the world? How often in 100 days do you get to do something that's going to impact generations to come? And how often in the world do you make that bastard wake up afterwards and know that a black woman kicked his ass and sent him on the road?
Ah, he fits right in. That's his prism for how he sees the world. Black and white, intersectionality. No wonder he was picked. Again, Kamala Harris didn't pick him because she caved to the left wing of her party. She picked him because she is the leader of the left wing of her party. Remember, it's not online anymore. It got scrubbed, but back when she did her 60 Minutes, or no, yeah, it was 60 Minutes with Norah O'Donnell. Norah O'Donnell asked her about being the most radical senator in the United States Senate as rated by a nonpartisan think tank. And Kamala Harris's reaction was to laugh. To cackle that evil laugh, that Margaret Hamilton straight out of the Wizard of Oz laugh that she has, because it's not just something she does when she's caught with a question she can't answer, which is almost every question, although certainly none in the last 17 days because she hasn't been asked a single question. But now she'll have to talk about and defend the selection of Tim Walz as vice president, because there are going to be moderates in the Democratic Party who are not going to be happy about her passing on Josh Shapiro. And you say, well, that's okay, because there are going to be a lot of Democrats who are happy because Josh Shapiro is Jewish. And now in Chicago, they don't have to worry about at their convention in 2 weeks, the Hamas-loving idiots leaving their college campuses and coming to the Windy City and causing mass chaos outside the United Center. You sure about that? You sure about that? Now those morons have been empowered by the bypassing of Josh Shapiro, and now they are going to want to hear from the stage about genocide in Gaza. Now they are going to want to hear from the stage about the Democratic Party fully disassociating itself from Israel. And the Democrats can't say that from the stage because America is watching, and the large majority of Americans support Israel in this conflict in the Middle East. Funny thing about Americans, they don't like their Democratic allies in a strategic area like the Middle East being betrayed by the presidential administration. But that is absolutely positively what has happened and will continue to happen under Kamala Harris, who, as Josh Krashour explains here, is a leftist and cannot avoid doing leftist things.
The running mate usually doesn't have that much of a difference in the big picture. But I think for someone who's as politically new to the scene, relatively speaking, as Vice President Harris is, this was one of her first big decisions. Democrats wanted to know, is she going to pick someone more to the left or more to the center? How is she going to govern as president if she's elected? And the pick of Walz over Shapiro is a strong, strong signal that her instincts are to the left, not to the center.
Her instincts have been to the left since she entered politics. She's tried to hide them. The media has been complicit in trying to get her to be portrayed as moderate or whatever. Republicans have to expose it. J.D. Vance is on his way to follow Walz and Harris around the country to do his best. Here's Byron Donalds, another guy who I thought would have been a phenomenal vice presidential pick, if not for the fact that he was from Florida, and that would have introduced its own set of issues. And the fact he's a little bit young, but Byron Donalds is one of the superstars on the Republican side of the aisle, here prosecuting the case against Kamala Harris.
This guy is incredibly left-wing. And let's be very clear. The reason why Josh Shapiro is not the pick, and don't believe me, all you got to do is look at the tweet of Jared Moskowitz, Democrat member of Florida, is that the Democrat Party has a massive anti-Semitism problem. That is why they did not pick Josh Shapiro, because it probably would have cost them Michigan and Minnesota. Yeah. So Jewish voters in our country need to look at this very, very clearly. They picked another radical left-wing Democrat who will cater to Hamas and will not actually be supportive of Israel, especially when Israel is facing a very real threat right now in the Middle East.
Want service that's in tune with your needs? It's time to get the kitchen of your dreams. Update, upgrade, uplift with Kitchen Tune-Up. It's amazing what a cabinet refacing will do to liven up your space. In and out in just 1 week with no demo. And keep in mind, if you're thinking of selling, a gorgeous kitchen can significantly.
You're right, Don. She did pick the only person. She did pick the only person who's left of her. Oh, there are others who are left of her, but they're all having a big party on the left today, but hopefully this gives us the energy that we need to get Donald Trump reelected. Great to hear from you, Don. Great to have all of you with us. Great audience today. Appreciate it, you guys. You can watch hour number 2 of the show on the Bruce Hooley Show Facebook page, on the 989 The Answer Facebook page. I'll release snippets of the program from that hour and this hour later on today on my social media sites. And hope you all have a great day. Appreciate your time. And wish you nothing but the best as we continue in this most consequential time. You got to get your neighbors to vote. I'd encourage you to get them to vote early. That way you know they're voting. And look, I know we're all question whether our votes really count when we vote early. Here in Ohio, I'm convinced they do count. I think Frank LaRose does a great job. So let's get that vote out there. Let's vote for Bernie Moreno. That's extremely important to get Bernie Moreno into the Senate. It's not just a Trump thing, it's a Bernie Moreno thing. Vote for Derek Marin in Northeast Ohio against Marcy Kaptur. We got to get these leftists out of office. We got to get these career politicians out of office. So thanks for watching. I really appreciate you guys as an audience, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Kamala Harris and